Welcome back to the Pharos. This should be part 3 of the Pharos right now. We're not anywhere near done. So the first thing that I want to do is spend a little bit of LP, just because I have some people like Ash who can't use the Holy spell that we just got. Let's fix that. Where's Holy? There's Holy. With her massive magic stat, we're going to want that, and we're not going to get that for a little while, but that will give her pretty much all of the white magic, apart from Renew, which we won't also have for a while, but I guess I can take another magic lore. Is this also... yeah, that's also a magic lore. I may as well save for that. And Penelo, please tell me... okay, Penelo can use Holy. Maybe she could use an extra Gambit slot. And then, let's see, we've got more magic lores as well as better accessories. I guess I'll take that. I could take the other magic lore as well. Not a particularly eventful license board visit for Penelo, but... okay then. Yeah, not really sure there's that much good left for Barsh in the Ulan board. Could get Ribbon, but we won't have access to that for a little bit. So, what in Night can he get? Also Ribbon. And then a few of, this is kind of interesting. I feel like I've used up most of the stuff that I want to get on Barsh, although the, funnily enough, I think the Ultimate Blade is actually in the Pharos, but it's in an optional part that we can't access yet. Yeah, pretty much everything in here is like, legendary weapons and things like that. Speaking of legendary weapons, we can get the legendary sword from FE7, / also 6. Just doing that for completeness. Barsh doesn't really need, Gambit slots. Okay, yeah, I already did stuff with Fran. But she could start taking some heavy armor, although the problem with that is that it will kind of cut into her magic, which is not the best. Oh yeah, we actually do have the Zeus Mace, which we have just enough LP for. Even though we just got the Perseus Bow, I'm actually kind of interested in making Fran use, maces for a little bit. A shield we don't even have, but I guess that's future-proofing. I suppose I can take, that one. And Ragnarok. Stuff that we don't have yet again, but might be useful later. Well, I guess I can license for the Hermes Sandals. And that. You know, I feel like Varn might be one of the best uses of that item since he has all 3 of the remedy laws. In fact, that's another item that is a guaranteed pickup in the Pharos in that special area. And I guess Traveler could be decent damage for Varn in certain circumstances. Okay, so the real reason I did that was to give Ash, well, Penelo already has it, but to give Ash access to Holy for, Gambit, which will probably do more damage to Undead than, Curaja would. Because I think I'm actually going to go back down. It turns out there is a rare game that spawns for killing 10 Daedars, and I was doing that last time to get treasure, and I forgot to spawn that rare game. So now I have to go ahead and, go back and kill the Daedars again. So I'll see you back here once I've done that. Okay, so see that red flame thing there? That should be the rare game I'm looking for. That Aeronite is gone, and this right here, yes, this is Vishnu. Named after Vishnu, just like that Thaisa rare game in the Still Shrine of Miriam was, I think, vaguely named after Brahman. So this thing appears after you kill 10 faces, and you can just go back and forth between the 3rd and 4th stairways to respawn them. Has quite a lot of HP, but with Ash's Holy and Barsh's Holy Lands, we made quick work of it. So I've actually given Penelo the Sage's Ring instead of Ashe, because I just realized that Ashe has so much MP that she tends to recover most of what she spends just by walking, whereas Penelo runs through her MP, I've noticed in these last few parts, with haste and things like that. She runs through it very, very quickly, so hopefully the Sage's Ring can mitigate that a little bit, especially since Penelo is now going to be casting Holy too, so that's another big MP sync spell she has. Okay, I still want to keep these two in the party just to try out Holy. I think I'll put in Varn. Unfortunately, the better dagger that I have is Wind Element, so it's probably not going to do that well in here, because I don't think there's that much that's weak to Wind. Varn also has... I do fully agree that Haste should be expensive, and it should have that, it should run out quickly, because it is a very, very good effect. It's just Penelo has been chewing through her MP very quickly, so I hope that the Sage's Ring is going to fix that a little bit. Also makes you resistant to light, I think. Well, Holy. Yeah, they're kind of the same thing, but in Final Fantasy it's traditionally been called Holy. And that, you know... that's not going to be as useful in here, because the majority of enemies seem to be Dark-aligned. You don't really face Holy-aligned enemies that often in this game. In fact, I haven't really seen many enemies that use Holy. And you'd think in a game that involves defying the gods at the end, you'd see more, Holy-based enemies, but not really. Oh, Black Mask. Cue Persona 5 controversy, I guess, except not really. So yeah, this is Absorb Dark, and does this increase your own dark damage? I remember there was one item that did that, or it might be the black, like the body armor equivalent of this. Okay, no, it's the black robes that do that. There's also the white robes, which boost Holy damage by 50%. And, apparently they're available in the Pharos Third Ascent and also in the Cerebi Step. Okay, that is worse than, the Golden Skull Cap, apart from the, Absorb Dark. I suppose Penelo could take that for a pretty massive boost to Magic Resist too. Surely I have something better than the Platinum Armor by now, do I? Okay, that's only a little bit of a decrease in defense and gives a pretty big magic increase, and since Penelo will be using Holy more often, then maybe I should go with that. I do have Lead Bolt for better damage, but yeah, I prefer the Disable to the, I think it was Immobilize, that's the other effect. Oh, I'm guessing there's a boss through here. Yep, second of 3. Ye without strength return whence you came. Well, okay. We seem to have more of a wisdom-oriented party than a strength one, given that we're mages, but let's see what happens. And here we are in... this looks like... yeah, where are we? Marsh of Profaning Wind. Yeah, it is a marsh. This doesn't really resemble any of the areas that we've really explored. Okay, we just had to move a little bit further to see this. So I'm going to jump out of the water. Yep, there we go. Okay, that's actually a pretty cool looking thing, although it is really just a recolored version of those Sand Shark enemies. Okay, it has regen and haste. Well, Ashe is dispelling already due to her gambits. Already going for Enrage. Slit. I feel like I've seen an enemy with this kind of name before. Okay, if you're using Firaga, because that seems to be its weakness, let's switch over to the Flame Staff. This is why you keep these staves in your inventory and don't sell them. Because the element buffing effects are always useful, regardless of how weak the staff ends up being later in the game. You don't really use staves for their actual damage. That's why I really haven't leveled up rods much on my white mages, because, like, in terms of licenses. And yeah, that was way more of a joke than the tortoise was. But you didn't put up a paling, so yeah. I've looked up and apparently there's nothing much you can do about the paling other than just wait it out, which is kind of a shame. But, yeah, because rods use your strength instead of, magic like staves do, and they just don't really seem like... I think they can hit flying enemies, although maybe not, maybe it's just poles. I think I made that mistake earlier, but it's been quite a while. I like this field of flowers we're in, though. But yeah, overall I found that like there is a rod that inflicts faith by hitting things. I think it's on hit faith. I used to think that well, now that we're not fighting something weak to fire, I can switch over, but to the cloud stuff. I used to think that those things that said on hit and then a status actually meant that whenever you hit an enemy, you give yourself that status. That's not true. Otherwise, measures would be kind of, well, different. I mean, admittedly though, can you really blame me for when I played the original not realizing that they expected you to hit your own teammates with measures? It's not that obvious. Okay, is this gonna... I feel like this is actually gonna take us further. And I just saw 2 chests there. And they may have been fixed chests. Please tell me that I can get back. Oh, yep. We're into the next ascent. Wow, we have new music too. Yeah, I was starting to think that the, He who turns back and seeks again the heavens through... Really? Yep, that's gonna send us back to the beginning, I think. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to leave behind those chests for now. They better not have been something good. I'm gonna look that up quickly. No, it seems like the Reflector mode and the Black Mask were the only fixed chests on that floor. And I got both of them, so that's good. Altar of Wealth. Oh, I think I remember this one. This is one of my favorite gimmicks in the tower, actually. Here, make of your wealth an offering. Hoarded in stanchless avarice, surrender it. Only then the path to tread. Let's not touch that now. I don't really want to give up my wealth. And that's the threshold of wealth. So I believe all around this floor... Oh good, there's a save crystal here too. There are these different altars. Altar of Steel. Here, make of your steel an offering. Honed sharp in the days before man's dawn. Surrender it. Only then the path to tread. Well, I kind of like my weapons. I'm going to say no to that one. I'm sure we eventually unlock the elevator to this place. Altar of Magics. Here, make of your magics an offering. Accorded by man by his betters, surrender them, only then the path to tread. No, thank you. Absolutely not, no deal. Altar of Knowledge. Here, make of your knowledge an offering. Glean for gleaning's sake, surrender it, only then the path to tread. Now, this one is a little bit vague as to what it means, but I actually feel like this, if I'm remembering what all of these do, this is the one that I always chose when I first played this game, and I feel like it's the one that most people recommend too. So, the labyrinth that you have to go through is the same, regardless of what threshold you choose to open, or what you choose to give up. So, for all of these different altars, the Altar of Steel will prevent you from using physical attacks, the Altar of Magics obviously prevents you from using magic, the Altar of Wealth prevents you from using items, and the Altar of Knowledge prevents you from using a mini-map. So, of all of the things to give up, it's like, oh hey, I would give up my ability to use physical attacks, my ability to use magic, items, but you can just choose your mini-map, and like, seriously, you might get a bit confused, but of everything here, the mini-map is definitely the lesser of 4 evils. I always just found this such an, well, knowledge avails you not. Yeah, as you can see, our mini-map is gone. At least, for now. Please tell me that we can't just bring up the mini-map by clicking the analog stick, because if we could, that would be hilariously stupid. Rare souls who accost tower and sky, you alone binding magic stir. You who shun sextant and compass, yeah, there we go. Fear not the darkness you must walk. Companions at your side into unknown paths. And I'll switch over to Vaan here. Because going through here... Wow, I think we actually... we can still bring up the map with the right analog. Are you serious? So there's like pretty much no downside to choosing this then. That's really dumb if that's the case. Like, that's extremely dumb. Like, all you get is just no mini-map in the top corner of your screen, which isn't really that useful anyway, since the right analog stick map just... Left analog stick, I mean. The left analog stick map just is so much easier to read. It's like, why? I mean, I kind of feel like that's kind of cheating, so I might want to just not do that anyway and just try and play this the way it was intended, no map at all. But even still, no map at all is infinitely better than no magic or no physical attacks, so it's just kind of... I've always found this to be really, really silly. What we got here? Abaddon. I remember this. In fact, this might have actually been my first encounter with something named Abaddon. I don't think I knew about the mythological significance of it back in the day. Although I may have, like, heard about Abaddon the Despoiler from Warhammer 40k before this, so I did have some sort of semblance of, oh hey, it's the same thing as a model from a miniatures game. For some reason, these frogs called Abaddon really stick out in my mind. Yeah, we just kind of need to wait for Ash's Holy to go off, because then everything just dies. So for each of, like, these little individual areas, it's always the same, regardless of what you chose to give up. And I think you can go back and, might as well attack a different one. You can go back and choose a different thing to give up if you made a choice that was not the Altar of Knowledge. I was gonna say, like, if you second-guessed yourself with the choice or anything, but, you know, really... It's just if you didn't choose the Altar of Knowledge, which is by far the objectively best option. It's just always been... Like, dungeons where you have to give up something to continue, and I'm just noticing a weakness of all of its Holy. In such a dark area, Holy just blots out most of the screen, and I just can't really see where I'm going. But the idea of dungeons where you have to give up something to continue... It's always been interesting to me. Like, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon has those dungeons that reset you to level 1 or prevent you from using items or things like that. But this one, this part of the game always stuck out in my mind because I always, like, even without looking at any guides, I always felt like this choice was just so blatantly, objectively better than the others. If I wanted a real challenge, I could go through without magic, but you see how good magic is in this game. These things aren't very physically defensive, though. You almost wonder if just using people like Fran is better here. So, like, you can see where, like, with all these holies going off that, like, I can kind of barely see anything. I'm gonna cheat for a second here, and... Yeah, like, it's really not that complex at all. You can always check where you've been via this map, although... I want to check if there are any fixed chests in here that I should be trying to find. Okay, there's an Opal Ring, Quasimodo Boots, and a Minerva Bustier in here. Unfortunately, I'm just using the Final Fantasy Wiki for this, and it lists the chests, but it doesn't have, like, a map of exactly where they are, which is a bit unfortunate. This area is pretty much just all these things and frogs, not much else. All of the items are things that I can quite easily get via other means. So I pretty much covered all of this half of the floor. I forget how long you have to go with your, you know, given up thing. Okay, Ash is a little high. Guess I can afford to take you out of the party for a bit. And like I said, I wanted to just try the Zeus Mace on Fran. Although she doesn't have... Wow, her shield licenses are actually really bad. But she could take the Shell Shield. Yeah, I'll need to start getting her some more shield licenses. That Zeus Mace looks oddly 2D. In fact, I'm going to actually go ahead and switch over to Fran just to see how she goes about attacking with this mace. As I was saying, the power is lower, but it's also... Well, that's actually good damage. It's also based on her magic stat, not her strength stat, so in my case, it's better. Fran can be a decent physical attacker. Like, Fran really is the, well, I mean, I was going to say jack of all trades of the party, but really it's more master of none. Because she was, like, considered objectively the worst party member in the original version of the game. Not so much in Zodiac, but, oh, she doesn't have Holy, so... I'm doing, like, 2,000 with healing against these. Oh, I was going to say, like, how much damage am I doing with the mace, but it got parried. Oh, and this guy got Protect, but it probably won't matter because of, you know... Oh, like 1,400. That's not, like, the strongest damage out there. In fact, Kuraga's probably going to be doing more against them, but, well, I would be trying to hit them with a mace just to see how much damage I do, and then, you know, I get blinded. Heals flying at both us and the enemy there. So I believe, yeah, that would lead us back down to one of the altars. Oh, great, now Fran levels up. Not that I should be complaining about that, but more that, you know... Reaver. Okay, then. More just that, you know, now she's higher level than everyone else, but... No, we're all getting to level, 46 pretty soon. Isn't there, like, another enemy called a Reaver in something? Well, Reaver's the name of, like, the 3rd tier warrior class. Okay, that is going to lead us upstairs. I want to see if I can fully explore this place first. But yeah, it's the name of the final tier of warrior in Radiant Dawn. And I'm actually not even 100% sure what it was in Japanese. I used to think it was called, like, Axe Brave, but I don't know if that's really correct. Because apparently there were a few Japanese, like, name changes in some of the classes for Radiant Dawn that didn't carry over to the English version. Like, Myrmidon got called Blade, I think, in Japanese Radiant Dawn. I could be wrong about that, but... Anyway, correct me if I am. Crusader Z or Crusader Z. I'm going to use Cura instead of Kuraga just for the area damage. I wonder how the Z/Z distinction came about in different regions. I feel like that damage was completely pathetic with that Kuraga, with that Cura, so should probably just go with Kuraga and then Fran fails. As she just said herself. Pinello's going for a raise there. In fact, now that Pinello has the half MP item, maybe she should be using Arise instead of Raise. I'll change that. Like, the difference in MP cost is pretty significant, but full HP revivals do make all the difference here, especially on people with fairly low amounts of health. Was that Pinello? Yeah, it was Pinello. Nice. So Vaan is like one of the few left who's still at a lower level. In that case, Fran is actually doing pretty well here, but I'm going to switch Balthier in. Bowline Sash, is that random or was that fixed? I feel like it's probably random because I read all of the fixed ones. Immune Confuse. I mean, that can be useful in some circumstances, but at this point in the game, generally I find anything that's inflicting Confuse on you is also inflicting something far worse at the same time, that also at the same time negates Confuse, like, you know, Confuse plus Stone. Yes, more Dark Crystals. So I'm just reminded of, like, there are a lot of, like, I think, so-called dark fantasy novels that were kind of partially the inspiration for a lot of Dungeons & Dragons related media, even more so than Lord of the Rings was. That's why I said earlier that it's not totally accurate to say Lord of the Rings inspired Dungeons & Dragons. I never really read, I mean, I wasn't really that big on, there are a lot of those kind of fantasy novels that were big in the era where D&D was first kind of a thing. Well, that's a lot of slow. Heiska would be useful here. Unfortunately, Heiska is, it's in the later parts of the Great Crystal, like almost right next to where the optional Esper is. So that is, a pain, although Balthier is remedying people. Don't know exactly what Smite of Rage does. Yeah, that is one thing that I can say is like a behind-the-scenes thing. That's a very well-hidden chest. Is that a fixed one? Yes, it is. That's the Minerva bust here. Is that, like, I've been taking some, from the Final Fantasy wiki, I've been taking some enemy stats and enemy skills, but unlike the Shin Megami Tensei wiki, it doesn't list what the enemy skills do next to the skill names, so a lot of the time it's kind of incomprehensible unless you look up the, 2 Dark Crystals, nice, unless you look up the separate enemy skills page on the Final Fantasy wiki. Which I've found to be a fairly decent wiki overall. I know I'm kind of cheating with the minimap here. And now I want to get out of here. Yeah, things do like to blind you up here. Maybe we should be equipping blind immunity. The Reavers kind of mark where the stairs are, so that is something to keep track of if you're missing your minimap. Hi there, Balthier, suddenly appearing in the shot. Okay, we're still missing our minimap, and we're in the Station of Suffering now. There's a Zeus Mason. Oh, Tula is here. Oh boy, that's not going to be good to get if, Boone, or Boone, actually, switching over, in that case, to Balthier's gun plus Aqua Shot. Because that's going to be doing a little bit more. Target this one just because the other's going to take that one. Now, I think that I know there's a rare game somewhere in the second Ascent. Oh, they all have Bravery too, that's kind of dangerous. I think another one just showed up too, didn't it? Yeah, there's something. Unless they're just respawning all over the place. They look kind of ghostly. Maybe they are respawning. Second Ascent, Station of Ascension. Well, we don't seem to be there yet. And also, there's probably a map somewhere in this place that I don't really want to be missing. Okay, so this theme actually was played in the second Ascent of the Pharos back in the original PS2 version. I didn't really recognize it, so I guess because the first Ascent's theme is a little more iconic, but I thought that, this was a new song, but it's not. The third Ascent, though, does have a new theme in Zodiac. In the original, it seems to have played one of the boss themes, the same one that plays for the big bomb in the Celica Wood. If they wanted giving up your map to be really debilitating here, they honestly should have. Can't be open from this side. Okay, then they honestly should have also made it so that your, this map didn't work. But yes, I still find it really silly how this is, like, objectively the best choice. Whoa, that is a lot of Abaddons. Shame we don't really have an AoE holy attack. I guess they just have low defense. That must be why Fran was doing a lot, because they seem to be taking way more damage from Varn's physical attacks than most enemies here do. Or the Crusaders just have high physical defense. I wouldn't be surprised if they did have high physical defense. And finally, Varn joins the level 46 club. Huh, we made quicker work of them with physical attacks than I thought, but again, they probably just have bad physical defense. I love the way that Yu Narukami says Abaddon in the Persona 4 anime. It's like, Abaddon! I can't do a Johnny Young Bosch voice, but yeah, just the way that he says it is great. And that, I am guessing that's just a regular, Dragon Lich. Apparently, undead, like, zombie dragons are, like, a recurring enemy in Final Fantasy. They're a recurring enemy in most RPGs, actually. And in fact, Dragon Lich is basically what they're called in Dungeons & Dragons. Again, more of that D&D inspiration in Final Fantasy. Draco Lich, I think, is what they're usually called in the original D&D games, and they're actually liches but dragons. I never really realized just how, because liches are referenced in a lot of video games as, and they tend to be fairly weak enemies, but liches are like very high level enemies in D&D. They're usually like the kind of thing that you don't throw at your players until very late in the campaign. To the point where there's a monster manual entry for a demi-lich, which is mostly for DMs who think liches are cool and want a lich to be a villain, but also don't want to murder the players at early levels. Just probably for the same reason that young dragons exist in the monster manual. When you want your players to fight dragons, but you also have them at low levels and don't want them to get slaughtered. Like, that just reminds me of how, like, one of Vox Machina's first opponents in the home game that Matthew Mercer was running, he created like a fetal lich, very, very, very newly born one that yeah, wouldn't oppose a challenge to a very low level party. I found the concept of like challenge rating in D&D kind of interesting, but at the same time, challenge rating can easily, I feel, go out the window when you've got, oh boy, guns with slow. I want Penelope to fix this, please, and also Balthea to fix his remedies, because, ugh, yeah, wow, that meter going up was physically painful to look at. But yeah, when you've got really big parties like say the ones in Critical Role, like often some of the enemies just aren't balanced when you have that many people with very, like, and especially with how overpowered a lot of player abilities get at higher levels. When you've got like 8 of them at once, a lot of monsters need to be buffed considerably to pose a challenge. Zeus Mace, which we already had, that is one of the fixed chests in this area, so unfortunately that was the fixed chest that I wasn't really looking for. I'm looking for Tula, which is apparently the best crossbow in the game. A bit weird that many of them require, let me guess, this one opens from this side. Wait a minute. This would go down, wouldn't it? Yes, this goes down. Looks like we've actually been everywhere in the Station of Suffering. Even without a mini-map, there's not a lot to actually map out in these places. In that case, I'll just try running around for a bit until I find that Tula, or I could just look up where it is. We can actually see the outside from here. It's weird that it looks so dark and murky inside, but oh, thank you! I was worried that I'd missed the map chest of this place, though we have already mapped out most of the first and second floors, well, not including the start, which I guess would be called the... I mean, it's not the ground floor by any stretch of the imagination, because we're really high up, but it's the ground floor of the second ascent. There we go! A map that we can still use, even though we supposedly gave up a map. Yes, there's one more labyrinth, and that's the Station of Ascension, where there's a 40% chance of a certain rare game spawning. Reach of the Dam, the Bounds of Truth, and then Reach of the Occult. Ignorant child, orphaned from history's truth. In heights unknown and unknowable, sit we sovereign over all. No more this evil east to walk, from distant silence watch we your doings, beyond the reach of mortal knowing. Yeah, if this is supposed to be the place where the Acuria sort of sell their chosen ones on doing their bidding, they're not really doing a good job of pitching themselves if they just keep saying things like, ignorant fools, foolish mortals, that we are so much more superior than. Okay, there's a chest here. Is this Tula? Yes, it is! Okay, let's see how this... I don't know if she's... Oh, she actually is licensed for that. Okay. 91 power. And now I think I'm going to go ahead and... I can switch over to her to see what it looks like. Doesn't really look all that different from her previous crossbow, except there's less of an obvious, like, bowstring on it. And from here, I'm going to see if I can find the closest stairway. Oh, Penello was the first into the level 47 club. I guess that makes sense with how much I've been using her to heal and fight these Holy Week enemies. Yeah, Penelope still ran through her MP, even with the halved cost. So, we've gone through quite a bit at this point, so I'm going to leave things open to head up to the next floor next time.